Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian in the Southeast.
Tonight's headlines this Monday evening. The grieving family of Sir David Amess view the sea of flowers at the church where he was stabbed to death as Westminster remembers him.
Sir David was a patriot who believed passionately in this country. He was also one of the nicest, kindest and most gentle individuals ever to grace these benches.
A kind and popular constituency MP, locals pay tribute to the man they knew as Mr Southend as the Queen agrees to grant the town city status.
Also tonight, an end to the rubbish row in Brighton and Hove. The council and union make a deal. Find out when the backlog will be cleared.
And passengers in Kent and Sussex sample travel on a nationalised rail service as Southeastern is taken back into public control. But did anyone notice? Good evening. A memorial service is about to begin at St Margaret's Church next to Parliament for Southend MP Sir David Amess, who was stabbed to death at a constituency surgery on Friday.
Earlier today, the Prime Minister announced Southend would be given city status in his memory, and MPs paid tribute to Sir David in the House of Commons. With the latest on the police investigation, we're live tonight in Leigh-on-Sea, where his grieving widow has viewed all the flowers and notes laid at the church where he was killed.
First, our political correspondent Phil Hornby reports on an emotional day at Westminster.
Still grieving, still disbelieving. MPs heard the Speaker make the official announcement.
The circumstances of Sir David's death were despicable and they raised the most fundamental issues about how members of this House are able to perform our vital democratic responsibilities safely and securely.
May the bright memory of his rich life ever outshine the tragic manner of his death.
MPs on all sides, from all parties, shocked and bewildered by what has happened to their friend.
He was one of the nicest, kindest and most gentle individuals ever to grace these benches.
David listened, David cared, David delivered. He had a knack of getting things done.
There was always smiles, always laughter, always fun around David.
Decency ran through him like the writing in a stick of Southend rock.
A lovely man who was a true friend to me, a friend to Dover and to our nation.
So farewell, David, my colleague, my great friend. In fact, quite simply, the best bloke I ever knew.
These tributes are a powerful testimony to the respect, the affection and yes, the love that David was held in across politics and across different communities.
And he was never happier than when banging the drum for Southend.
He never once witnessed any achievement by any resident of Southend that could not somehow be cited in his bid to secure city status for that distinguished town.
And of course, we must make Southend a city.
I am happy to announce that Her Majesty has agreed that Southend will be accorded the city status it so clearly deserves.
The tributes continued until a few minutes ago, the Speaker led a sombre procession out of the Commons into the street outside and across the road to St Margaret's, their parish church, for a service of sadness and celebration too of a parliamentary life well lived. He won't be forgotten.
Live to Phil now at Westminster. And Phil, that service now underway.
Yes, it is, Sangeeta. It's the first of two services. There'll be a Roman Catholic service on Wednesday. Sir David was a devout Roman Catholic, and there's only room in there for a certain number of MPs and peers, but the service is being broadcast on television screens across the Houses of Parliament tonight. The MPs in the House of Commons, I think, got the tributes just about right this afternoon. There was a degree of anger, understandably, about the circumstances of his death. There were serious reflections on his political life and the things he achieved, particularly in the field of animal welfare. But above all, there was a sense of humour. I've known Sir David Amess for 30 years, and I'll always remember his wicked sense of humour. There was always a twinkle in his eye. And that smile that so many MPs spoke about today, and it's unbelievable that we won't see that smile again.
It is, Phil. Thank you for that tribute from Westminster.
And there is still shock at Friday's events being felt in Leigh-on-Sea and in neighbouring Southend.
Books of condolence have opened in the town and flowers have been laid outside the Belfairs Methodist Church where the attack happened.
Our reporter Joe Caution is there for us tonight. Joe, so many people talking about Sir David's passion for his constituency and his willingness to help others.
Absolutely, Andrew, and what was the scene of a tragedy on Friday has now transformed into a place to remember and honour Sir David Amess. Hundreds of people coming to pay their respects today. He was more than just an MP for the people of Southend, where some of the floral tributes on the cards behind me describing him as truly kind, humble and generous with his time. Another reads, Southend has lost a true gentleman. Now, hundreds of bunches of flowers have been laid throughout the day, each with a different story to tell, from someone who went above and beyond for his community. I've been speaking to just some of the people whose lives he's changed earlier today. A community still in shock and a community still grieving for one of their own. As Sir David Amess's family visits the church where he was tragically killed on Friday, they say the outpouring of emotion has given them strength. In a statement, they said they've realised from the tributes paid that there was far, far more to David than even those closest to him knew. And as hundreds of people came to lay flowers and pay their respects today, each came with a story to remember him by.
David was a big help to my family. My son died outside a nightclub on the 4th of December 2004. He was very supportive. We went to his surgery and chatted to him there. So I'd like to think that something like this could happen is completely shocking to everybody. He had time and listened. He listened to the small people. That's what I would say about David.
He did what he did, but then he'd follow it up. If he saw you out, he'd remember and he'd go, is everything still all right? And that is absolutely amazing, because it's a large population, but he was really, really visible.
But his loss has been felt across all age groups. Over the weekend, a mural of Sir David appeared at the skate park he opened back in 2008.
The main thing was that he really loved this town, he really loved Southend, and he really wanted to prove, you know, what we were capable of. To have someone with that much passion for the local area, you know, be taken from us in this way I'm still kind of in shock at the fact that this has happened.
Whatever the problem, Sir David made his constituents feel like they were being listened to. One of his biggest passions, though, was trying to make Southend a city. Now his wish has come true.
I'm delighted. I'm sure all of Southend is delighted, and I'm absolutely certain David would be delighted, and I'm quite certain he's smiling down on us, knowing that his wish has finally been granted.
A change in status for Southend to remember a man who for more than 20 years has changed the lives of so many here.
So Joe, what about the police investigation and the suspect who's being held?
Yes, well, a 25-year-old man was arrested immediately after the incident on Friday on suspicion of murder. He remains in police custody and continues to be questioned by detectives at a London police station. They've been granted an extension until Friday to question him. Now, a counter-terrorism team is leading this investigation. Some of these pictures, which you'll be seeing, show officers searching different areas, including 3 addresses in London in relation to the investigation. Back here in Leigh-on-Sea, the cordon has now been removed and the police presence has started to ease, but the impacts of Sir David's death haven't gone away and they will be felt here for some days to come.
Joe Caution, thank you. A Dover school has paid tribute to a pupil who was hit and killed by a car on Friday evening. Maya Lawrence died after she was struck by a vehicle while crossing the A256 Whitfield Hill. The head teacher of Dover Christchurch Academy has described the 13-year-old as a lovely girl who was loved by everyone. Police would like to speak to anyone who saw the collision or has dashcam footage.
A driver who pulled out of a junction into the path of an oncoming motorcycle has been given a suspended prison sentence. The rider, now aged 63, was travelling through Ditchling when he hit the van in August 2019. He's now paralysed from the chest down. Graham Ashen, who is 58 and from Horsham, pleaded guilty to dangerous driving and was sentenced to 21 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years.
The industrial action by refuse workers in Brighton and Hove has been resolved after an agreement was reached in the bitter row over working conditions.
Rubbish has been left to pile up over the last 2 weeks since members of the GMB union went on strike. It means waste will start to be collected again, but there's a warning that there will be a backlog. Charlotte Wilkins is live tonight with the latest. Charlotte, what is the latest?
Well, Sangeeta, as you can see behind me, the streets don't actually look that much different today. There's still rubbish piled up high and it's covering pavements and roads, but the bin strike has been suspended and crews were out on their usual Monday rounds today. This morning, the GMB union accepted an offer made by the council which puts an end to the 2-week strike. It also puts a stop to the proposed 30-day strike, which was due to start on Thursday. The deal now needs to be signed off by the council at a meeting tomorrow. Now, just to remind you what these bin strikes were all about, they were originally to do with drivers' rounds, but it later also became about pay. Here's GMB's Gary Palmer.
Management will not be able to make the changes to the rounds which brought about so much stress and it started this trouble right from the start. So we're really pleased to say that the policy and procedure, the checks and balances throughout that procedure are all in place, and we're content that the management will now have to operate by them. So that's the main thing out the way. As far as the side issue, we believe that there is a reasonably, really good pay offer been put on the table that our members have already now accepted. We just need now for the council, I assume, to make sure that, of course, that can be funded and paid for by the city, and that will be concluded, I think, tomorrow lunchtime.
Now, the deal's not just good news for City Clean staff, but also for the lowest paid staff at the council. They will also get a pay rise. Now, it's going to take around 2 weeks to clear this backlog. And although bins were being collected today by the City Clean team, a lot of the overspill, like the stuff behind me, taking over pavements and roads, can't be lifted by the grabber truck. So that stuff will have to be cleared by hand and will obviously take a lot longer. But the residents that I spoke to earlier today were just pleased that there was an end in sight.
Council tax is so high in Brighton, it should have been sorted. And I pay full council tax. And I'm not happy that the rubbish is building up and stinking.
Now I just know how useful they are and how important they are, to be honest. They're doing an amazing job because nobody wants to touch that.
Bin men used the power, didn't they? You know what I mean? They did what they did to get whatever they wanted.
We should take pride in Brighton being one of the tourist places, and to let this happen in the first place, it shouldn't really happen in the first place, should it?
Now, the council says that we apologise to residents, businesses and visitors to the city for the disruption during the last few weeks, and they thank them for their patience.
Charlotte, live in Brighton, thank you. Mother from Kent is calling for fundamental reforms to the care system so that families of those with learning disabilities are better consulted.
Teresa Hammond has told ITV Meridian she wasn't listened to when she raised concerns about the toll coronavirus restrictions were taking on her grown-up daughter.
The retired social worker has started a petition proposing a new post of Adults Disability Commissioner to advocate for parents in similar circumstances. With more, here's Kit Bradshaw.
Before the coronavirus pandemic hit, Teresa Hammond from Headcorn used to see her adult daughter several times a month.
Yeah, she's very happy and smiling, and that's who she is.
Her daughter, who we're not naming, has learning disabilities and lives in supported accommodation, where she gets daily care. The first lockdown meant an abrupt end to family meetups.
She wasn't able to visit her friends, her family, to come over to have weekends with me like she used to do. So all that stopped, all that changed, and nobody listened. Nobody listened to her, and we could see physically her mental health impacting on her.
Teresa says for 7.5 of the past 18 months, she was unable to see her daughter face to face and not included in her care bubble, with limited supervised meetings between the lockdowns.
Restrictions were put on her that she wasn't allowed to be part of my bubble. I wasn't allowed to visit her. She wasn't allowed to come to see me. And so we used to have Zoom meetings, and you could literally see her. You could see the glaze in her eyes. She was dribbling. All her emotions disappeared. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't laughing. And as a parent, it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking to see my daughter change to a different person. And it could have been avoided. I think that's the biggest thing for me, the frustration and the anger, is it could have been avoided.
In this case, the care was provided by a private company but commissioned by Medway Council. And in a statement, they told us that keeping residents of care homes and supported living arrangements safe was a key priority during the pandemic, and that care providers introduced safety measures to keep residents, staff and their loved ones safe, in line with central government instructions. They went on to say that they've apologised to Teresa for not addressing her wider concerns more proactively.
The care provider told us that they adhered to government guidance to ensure that clients and staff were protected and worked collaboratively with their families to keep them fully informed. Teresa has now started a petition calling for a new role to be created, that of Adults Disability Commissioner, to give families like hers a voice.
I've got the energy, I've got the confidence to fight and to get my voice heard. What about other families that haven't got that support, haven't got the confidence, haven't got the energy? What about those families and those young people?
And I understand your daughter is now not being looked after by the same care provider. How's she doing?
She's thriving. She is thriving now. She is back to how we know her now as a beautiful young lady.
Kit Bradshaw, ITV News, Headcorn.
Now, if you travelled on a Southeastern train from Kent or Sussex today, then you'll have been amongst the first passengers on this newly nationalised train service.
The government announced last month that it would be taking over the Southeastern franchise after discovering that Southeastern hadn't declared millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. With more, Abigail Bracken.
Arriving on the same trains at the same times with the same tickets. Even the name Southeastern is staying. But passengers at Sevenoaks this morning and across the Southeastern network are now using trains once again run by the public sector, but with a new managing director.
We have transferred ownership smoothly over the weekend, and it's very much business as usual for passengers on Southeastern this morning. Looking forward, we're going to be working on a plan to win our customers back, give them the safe, clean, punctual and reliable service that they deserve.
So will passengers really expect absolutely no changes whatsoever?
Today, it's business as usual, but tomorrow they'll see more of these fantastic new trains behind me. We've got 30 of them in order, and we'll be bringing them into use early next year.
But it wasn't a lack of rolling stock that made the government remove Southeastern's franchise. And it wasn't for delayed, overcrowded trains or the dusting of snow that could bring the network to a standstill. Southeastern lost its franchise for the way it accounted for public money worth millions. The government said it decided to take over the Southeastern franchise after Southeastern failed to declare £25 million of taxpayers' money, which the Transport Secretary said should have been returned. So now run by the government's operator of last resort, officially as SE Trains, Southeastern's new managers are promising to invest more in their people and their trains. And they've got at least 3 more years of public ownership to win over their customers. Abigail Bracken, ITV News, Sevenoaks.
It's 6:20 and the ITV Evening News continues here with the national and international news at 6:30 with more Charlene White.
Coming up, tributes to the MP stabbed at his constituency surgery. Sir David Amess's family visited the church where he was killed, while MPs in Parliament fell silent before sharing emotional memories. Also ahead, England ordered to play a game behind closed doors after violence at the Euros final. And how the Netflix and chill generation are picking names for their kids. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
The daughter of Dame Vera has described the murdered MP Sir David Amess as the driving force behind a memorial in Dover for her late mother.
The MP was a great fan of Dame Vera, and he wanted her to be remembered not only by future generations in this country, but worldwide.
A short time ago, I caught up with Dame Vera's daughter, Virginia Lewis-Jones. Virginia Lewis-Jones, thank you for talking to us. First of all, our sympathies to you. You had a close working relationship with Sir David because of your joint interest in making the memorial happen.
Absolutely, yes. It was David who started the ball rolling last November when he contacted me and said we would very much like to get a memorial for your mother. And although Tom and I had been thinking about it before, he was the one that really instigated the whole thing and got us all going. And he was just wonderful. And also, remember, they both came from the same area in London, so there was an affinity there between them to start with. He pop down and have a cup of tea and a bun, and they would talk about their area, you know. So it's just terribly tragic.
As you say, he was so passionate about this memorial, and now you want him to be reflected in it too.
Yes, I spoke to Paul Day, you know, the sculptor, on Saturday mornings, and he was all for it. I don't know where or how, that's up to Paul how he does, but I do think that somewhere on it Sir David has to be located, but the decision about where is obviously up to Paul. We'll have discussions about it. And also remember that the amphitheatre just above the Western Heights, Dover District Council are hoping to turn into a theatre, and Mummy will hopefully be right in the middle at the top, and also within that park there will be a remembrance for Sir David as well, which is also very, very important.
When I spoke to Sir David earlier this year, he was hoping that it might be ready for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. What stage are we at then?
Oh, we're still desperately trying to raise the money for it, and we've got a long, long way to go. So, you know, if anybody wants to help us, then you just go to the website, which is Dame Vera memorialstatue.co.uk. We are getting in more monies, but we still have a long, long, long way to go.
Now, Dame Vera was the essence of wartime spirit. This is an unthinkable tragedy for Sir David's family. And today, Sir David's family calling for togetherness. Is that a sentiment that you share?
Yes, absolutely. They're so right. You know, David was so involved with everybody. It doesn't matter where you came from, who you were, what you were. If you needed help, he would be there to try and help you, and in a lot of instances do. It's like those people said he was their hero because he helped them integrate, and he was a hero to so many people, not only for people, animals, everything. He was just got stuck in, like Mummy did during the war, and poddled off to Burma, you know, for 3 months to entertain people over there in the middle of the jungle. And in a peculiar sort of way, David has reflected that by stepping into the middle of our jungle, our suburban jungle, if you like, and trying to sort that out.
Two very special people. Virginia Lewis-Jones, thank you for your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, great to get an insight there into Sir David.
Yeah.
Really was. OK, time now for the weather. Let's find out what's in store from Holly.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
Good evening. It's pretty dismal out there, isn't it? A lovely start this morning, but of course we all know what red sky in the morning means, and yes, conditions have been going downhill, and often I think for this week it'll be unsettled, but there will be some sunshine around at times, and also we're seeing quite a change in temperatures, so tonight and tomorrow ever so mild but turning much colder later in the week. So the bigger picture shows this feature currently affecting us. We have, though, got this flow of very mild air at the moment. Tomorrow night, though, we've got another front working our way. Very unsettled for Wednesday, potentially very windy, wet as well. And then towards the tail end of the week, you can see this plunge of much colder air. So I really think we'll notice that change in temperature. Out there at the moment, outbreaks of rain, quite a brisk wind around as well, and as we head through the night tonight, an awful lot of low cloud around, so murky, misty, hill fog. Temperatures, though, really staying up, so 15, 16 degrees, that's more the sort of value you'd expect to see by day at this time of year. So very mild into tomorrow morning, but some poor visibilities around, and some outbreaks of rain here and there as well. Brightening, some sunshine emerging, a breezy southwesterly, but it is very mild for the time of year, so high teens or low 20s. Our times of high water, we've got Hastings there at 11:10 and again at 11:37. Very unsettled into Wednesday, turning brighter then, but much colder.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
Well, in just a moment, it's the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Andrew Pate will have your late update. That's just after 10:30 this evening. Please join him if you can. For now, though, from the team here, thank you very much for watching. Join Andrew later and join us both again here tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.